Question 446. An appraiser would use which of the following for a comparative market analysis, CMA? A. Current listings. B. Homes recently sold. C. Listings recently expired. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. A comparative market analysis, CMA, is a tool used by real estate agents to estimate the market value of a property. It involves analyzing several types of data related to similar properties. 1. First, the real estate agent gathers detailed information about the subject property, including its size, condition, features, and location. 2. Then, they research comparable properties, focusing on those that are similar in characteristics and have sold recently, typically within the last 3-6 months, in the same neighborhood. 3. Adjustments are then made to the sale prices of the comparable properties to account for differences between them and the subject property, e.g., size, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, upgrades, condition. 4. Finally, the agent compiles this data into a report, providing a price range or estimated value for the subject property based on the analysis of the comps. By considering current listings, recent sales, and expired listings, a real estate agent can provide a more comprehensive and realistic estimate of a property's potential selling price in the current market. Question 447. A lessee was given a 30-day notice to terminate a periodic tenancy by the landlord. However, the lessee failed to vacate the property at the end of the 30 days. Which of the following is now true? A. There is a tenancy at sufferance. B. The landlord could begin the ejectment process. C. If the landlord accepts and cashes the tenant's rent checks, then a new periodic tenancy would result. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Once the 30-day notice period ends and the tenant fails to vacate, the tenant is now occupying the property without the landlord's consent. This creates a tenancy at sufferance. Since the tenant is now unlawfully occupying the property, the landlord has the legal right to begin the ejectment, eviction, process to regain possession of the property. If the landlord accepts rent after the 30-day notice period, it implies consent to the tenant's continued occupancy. This action effectively creates a new periodic tenancy, based on the frequency of the rent payments, e.g., month to month. Question 448. Berry Bros, a strawberry farm, agrees to sell all the berries it harvests to Smoothie City, a company that makes non-fat smoothie drinks, if Smoothie City promises to buy all the strawberries it uses from Berry Bros before signing the contract. Berry Bros asks to insert a term that it can cancel the agreement at any time without notice. A. Valid, because both parties agree to the terms. B. Void, because Berry Bros' promise is illusory. C. Void, because it violates the UCC. D. Both B and C. Correct answer is D. Both B and C. If Berry Bros can terminate the contract without notice, it means that they have not limited their options for the future. So, Berry Bros' promise is illusory, a promise given as consideration that does not actually obligate it to anything. Also, the UCC requires that reasonable notification must be provided before termination of a contract if its enforcement would be unconscionable, a contract which is so outrageous or immoral that it shocks the court's sensibility. A cancellation of its berry supply with no notice could put Smoothie City out of business, an unconscionable result. Question 449. Net income shows up in which kind of statement? A. Escrow closing statement. B. Profit and loss statement. C. Capital expenditures statement. D. Loan application statement. Correct answer is B. Profit and loss statement. Escrow closing statement details the financial transactions involved in the closing of a real estate transaction, such as the distribution of funds and the payment of closing costs. It does not reflect ongoing income. Capital expenditures statement tracks investments in long-term assets, such as buildings or equipment. It is not designed to show net income. Loan application statement provides information about an individual's or business's financial status to a lender for the purposes of a loan application. It may include income information, but it is not specifically a net income statement. Profit and loss statement, P&L, also known as an income statement. The profit and loss statement shows a company's or property's revenues, expenses, and net income, or loss, over a specific period. Net income is the bottom line of the statement, calculated by subtracting total expenses from total revenues. Question 450. Which of the following individuals can lawfully enter into a binding contract to buy property? A. A ward of the court. B. A foreign investor. C. An unemancipated minor. D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. A foreign investor. A ward of the court is someone under the court's care and may have limitations on their ability to enter into contracts, especially regarding property. They might need court approval for such transactions. An unemancipated minor is a person under age 21 who has never been married or who has been married but had the marriage annulled, and who remains under the control of his parents, whether or not he or she lives with them. Unemancipated minors typically cannot enter into binding contracts by self, including those involving property purchase. Foreign investors can generally purchase property in the United States, and their contracts to buy property would be considered lawful, assuming they meet other legal requirements, e.g., following money laundering regulations. Question 451. The Veterans Administration does not make loans. Instead, it loans make by an approved institutional lender. A. Finances. B. Assigns. C. Guarantees. D. Recovers. Correct answer is C. Guarantees. The Veterans Administration, VA, does not directly lend money for home purchases. Instead, they guarantee a portion of the loan made by a private lender, such as a bank or credit union. This guarantee protects the lender in case the borrower defaults on the loan. The VA does not set a cap on how much eligible veterans can borrow to finance their home. There are, though, limits on the degree of liability the VA will assume, which impacts the amount of the loan that an institution will approve. Question 452. Dave promises that he will give Sam dinner every night if Sam promises to come over every morning and walk Dave's dog, to which Sam agrees. Dave and Sam have a bilateral contract. B. Unilateral contract. C. Agreement to contract. D. Option contract. Correct answer is A. Bilateral contract. A unilateral contract involves a promise by one party in exchange for the performance of an act by the other party. Here, both Dave and Sam make promises, so it's not unilateral. Agreement to contract refers to a preliminary agreement to negotiate a future contract. It doesn't involve the exchange of promises that creates a binding contract. An option contract gives one party the right, but not the obligation, to buy something from another party within a specific time frame. This scenario doesn't involve an option to buy anything. Bilateral contract is a type of contract where both parties make promises to each other. In this case, Dave promises dinner every night, and Sam promises to walk the dog every morning. Both parties have obligations and both receive something of value. A bilateral contract is formed because both Dave and Sam make promises to each other, creating mutual obligations and a binding agreement. Question 453. An agency relationship is established by the following, except A. Ratification. B. Agreement. C. Estoppel. D. Title report. Correct answer is D. Title report. Ratification is when a principal approves an act performed by someone else, the agent, on their behalf, even if there wasn't prior authorization. Ratification can establish an agency relationship. An agreement between the principal and the agent outlining the scope of the agency is a key element of establishing an agency relationship. Estoppel as a legal doctrine prevents someone from denying something they previously indicated through their words or actions. In agency law, estoppel can apply if a principal's conduct leads a third party to believe someone is their agent, creating an agency relationship by implication. A title report is a document that researches the ownership history of a property and identifies any potential liens or encumbrances. While a title report is important in real estate transactions, it doesn't directly establish an agency relationship. Question 454. All of the following about an estate for years is true, except it. A. Automatically terminates when the lease term expires, with no notice required from either party. B. Must have a term lasting at least a year. C. Must have a fixed term. D. It can only be established by express agreement. Correct answer is B. Must have a term lasting at least a year. An estate for years is a leasehold with a predetermined duration, lasting any length of time, not necessarily a full year. This fixed-term lease distinguishes it from other leaseholds with less defined terms. Unlike common misconceptions, the duration can be as short as days or weeks. This type of lease has a specific start and end date, automatically terminating at the end of its predetermined term. Due to this fixed duration, an estate for years requires a clear, explicit agreement, typically a written lease, to establish its terms. Therefore, the statement claiming an estate for years must last a minimum of 1 year is the only inaccurate assertion. Question 455. Joe bought a building for $550,000. The yearly net income produced by the building is $65,000. Calculate the rate of return for Joe. A. 0, 15. B. 1.18%. C. 11.82%. D. The rate of return cannot be calculated from the question. Correct answer is C. 11.82%. Here's how to calculate the rate of return, also known as the capitalization rate or cap rate in real estate. Formula. Rate of return, cap rate, equals net operating income, NOI, purchase price. Applying the values. NOI equals $65,000. Purchase price equals $550,000. Calculation. $65,000 for $550,000 equals 0.118181. Converting to percentage. 0.118181 x 100% equals 11.8181%. Rounding. Approximately 11.82%. Therefore, Joe's rate of return on the building is approximately 11.82%.